Let's review some of the items that we went over in the computer lab the other day. First, I'm on our worksheet for computer lab, September 22nd. You can find that on Canvas. And I'm on the first tab, population of U.S. states. We created a map chart. So what I need to do that is to click any cell within the range. It can be any population or any state. Then I'm going to click Insert. In the Charts group, notice there's a Maps icon. I'm going to click Maps. And really the only thing you can do other than more map charts is to click the filled map. So notice I have my filled map, population of the United States, and notice when I swipe over any point, it tells me what the population is and what that state is. So first of all, notice I'm on the Chart Design tab right now. So I can change my chart style to different types of charts. There are only these 4 types right now. I can change the colors if I don't like the blue. I can change it to other colors, as you can see. I'm going to leave it at blue. And then we can add some data labels. So making sure that you're on the Chart Design tab, left-hand side in Chart Layouts, add chart element, data label, and show. Now, if you don't like the population, we can see it if we make our chart a little bit bigger. If you don't like the population, add chart element, data labels. Now I'm going to choose more data label options. So instead of the value, I'm going to choose the series name or the category name. And notice now with the category name, I now have the state instead of the population. So there's our little introduction into map charts. Now I'm going to move to the next tab that says stocks. This is something that I could not do in the computer lab because we did not have these stock types, but now I'm on my laptop and we can see the stock types. So what I did was I went online and I looked up the ticker symbol of several companies. Ticker symbol is its identifier on the stock market. So it's a 1, 2, it could be 5 or even more, not digit, but letter representation of the stock. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to select all the stock names, not the word ticker, and I'm going to click Data. Now you're going to notice over here that I now have grouped data types that we did not have in the lab. When I click the down arrow, you can see that I have Wolfram. We'll talk about those in a moment, but I have stocks, currency, and geography. So I'm going to choose my stock data type. And notice that it has correctly found each one except this PF group. I don't think that that was correct. I don't think that that is the correct stock, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So notice I have Walmart, Target, Apple, Nike, Netflix, The Gap, Walt Disney, Microsoft Corporation, IBM, Johnson & Johnson, and all sorts of other stocks. Now notice there's this little symbol over here, that's a card. So if I click the show card, I get all sorts of information on Walmart, but unfortunately you can't copy and paste it or anything, it's just there for you. But that's not the neat thing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of those cells, and you notice over here that I have a box up here. When I hover over it, it says Insert Data. So I'm going to click the Insert Data, and I can get the current price for each one of the stocks. I can get the shares outstanding. I can get the volume. And I can just bring that all in. And I can also bring in many other things like the corporate headquarters. And the nice thing about this, I talked about this in class, is that this is what is known as a query. So I could come back to here in 3 weeks, and all I have to do is on that data tab, in the queries and connections, click the refresh all. And now I would have the current price and the current volume and the current number of shares outstanding and the current address and all of those things that I needed. Now that we've got stocks, let's look at some other data types. So now I have my foreign exchange. So once again, I'll make that a little bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So I chose several currencies. Although the MXP doesn't seem to work, I'll hold my breath. That's Mexican pesos. We'll see if that one works. So I'm going to select currency. I'm going to select all my currency names under currency, the first group, and making sure that I'm on the data tab. In the data types, I'm going to click the down arrow, and this time I'm going to call it currency. So it looks like it didn't pick up my Mexican pesos. It looks like it put it as euros again. So it looks like I have 2 euros, but that's okay for this demonstration. So now for the currency exchange, I can pick up the price. I can pick up the currency. And I can pick up the from currency, which of course is going to be US dollars. And I can also put in the name. So we can see here US dollar to euro, US dollar to Canadian dollar. So what this currency means is if I had $1, I could buy 0.85 of a euro. If I had $1 US, I could buy $1.26 Canadian. If I had $1 US, I could buy 1.37 Australian dollars. If I had $1, I could buy 110 Japanese yen. $1 would buy me 7.7 Hong Kong dollars. $1 would buy me 4.182 Malaysian ringgits. And $1 would buy me 0.73 of a pound. And it redid my euros. $1 would buy me 0.85 of a euro. Now I can actually do the currencies backwards. So I'm going to select my second list. And making sure, once again, I'm on that data tab. Just click currencies. Now I've got Maxi Pizza instead, so I didn't think my Mexican pesos was going to work. So once again, I can do the same thing. I can insert the price. And I can insert the name. So now what this means is if I had €1, I could exchange that for $1.17 US. So notice the first group is if I had $1, how much could I exchange that for the foreign currency? Down here, this is if I had 1 unit of the foreign currency, how much could I exchange that for in US dollars? So if I had 1 Canadian dollar, I could exchange that for 79 cents US. If I had 1 Australian dollar, I could exchange that for almost 73 cents US. If I had 1 yen, I couldn't even exchange that for a penny, but almost 0.009. So with 2 Japanese yen, I'd be able to get almost 2 cents. Hong Kong dollar, I'd be able to exchange it for 12 cents. Malaysian ringgit, I would exchange it for almost 24 cents. And 1 pound, I would exchange it for $1.36 US. Now let's look at a couple of different of these data types before I go into the text separate and text join. So moving on to geography, data types. I put in some cities. So I'm going to select my city name. I'm going to make sure that I'm on that data tab, very important. Click the down arrow for data types, and this one I'm going to give as geography. Notice that it recognized all of my cities, and there are many neat things that I could drop in for cities. So I have my insert data. So I could find what state that city is in, Doesn't know what state New York is in. I could find the leader. So it looks like it doesn't know who the leader of San Francisco is, and it doesn't look like who the leader of St. Louis is, but we've got Lori Lightfoot for Chicago, Sylvester Turner, Eric Garcetti. We could put in the population. So we know the population of each one of our cities. It's funny, it doesn't know what state New York is in, but it did get the population of New York. That is very odd. And it doesn't know who the leader of San Francisco is. And just one more, we could actually even put in an image, and it will be hard to see the image, but we could make the fields much bigger. And we've got an image of actually some of our cities. Now moving on, we can do the same thing with countries. So countries, data tab, geography type, and just a couple this time because I want to move on. We can put in the GDP of each of the countries, gross domestic product, and we could put in the population. And with that, we're all set. Now let's move on very quickly to some of the text things that we were working on in class. So if you remember, I'm going to move to text separate. We went over in class a new function called flash fill, which can easily extract or join text together. So in the first problem, each one of these names is in a single field, and we want to separate them. So in cell B2, I'm going to type Jimmy, which is the first name. In cell C2, I'm going to type Buffett, which is the first last name, and unfortunately you can only do flash fill on one cell at a time. I can't select it like I can do with the fill handle or copy and do a bunch of cells at the same time. So now I'm going to click cell B2. I'm going to go to the Data tab. In the Data Tools group, I'm just going to click the button that says Flash Fill. And notice now I've extracted all of the first names, and they're not a formula, they're actually names, so I can copy it and paste it someplace else. If I now click on cell C2 Buffett and do the same thing in the Data Tools, click my Flash Fill, I have now extracted all of the last names into a single cell. Extracting the state from the middle of the text stream would be almost impossible. If your boss just wants the state, I can just type the first state, which is FL, hit enter, click back on the FL, click flash fill, and notice how I've extracted all of the states. I can do the same thing with the zip, 33040. In this case, the city doesn't work quite right because some of them are two names and some of them are one name. They're still working on flash fill. It's only a few years old at this point. So I'm going to click back on the zip, click that flash fill button. Remember, it's on the Data tab in the Data Tools group, and I've extracted all of my zips. And if you remember, I went through a function in the classroom about how to extract it using a formula. So I'm going to click on Formulas, the Formulas tab, and notice there's an entire group for text. So I urge you to take a look at that. We're not going to go over all of the text functions right now, but one that we have is right will extract a certain number of digits from the right-hand side of a text string. Left will extract a certain number of digits from the left-hand side of a text string, and mid will extract a certain number of digits from the middle of a text string. So for example, if you have an order number and it's automatically added to a date and you need the order number without the date, you can just extract the order number. So I'm going to use the right because we want to extract the zip, and the zip is the 5 most right digits within those text strings. So I'm going to click right. First, it's going to ask me the text, so I'm going to click on cell D2. So when I'm in line 3, it'll look at D3. When I'm in line 4, it'll look at D4. And then for the number of characters, I'm going to choose 5. Notice my answer is 33040, the first zip. I click OK. And now I can just double click that fill handle to copy and paste it. So I get my skinny plus. The 4-headed arrow is different. I need to hover over that box on the bottom right hand side, get my skinny plus. Now I'm just going to double click and notice how I've extracted all of the zip codes. But these, I want you to notice in the formula bar, they are actually formulas. They are not numbers, where using the flash fill, they're actually text. They're not formulas. Now let's quickly go into the last one that we did in the computer lab, which was text join. So we can also use flash fill to join text, but we can also use two functions, text join and concat. So first I'm going to use flash fill to join the names. That's what FF stands for, is flash fill. So in cell G2, I'm going to type Jimmy space Buffett. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to click on cell G2, go back to the data tab. I was on the formulas tab. I need to be on the data tab. And in that data tools group, I'm going to click flash fill. It might be an icon for you, but I click flash fill and notice how it has put together all of the names with a space in between. Very nice. Now there is a function that you can use called text join that will allow you to join several strings and put the same exact character in between each string. So for example, if you wanted a long list of email addresses and wanted to put a semicolon in between each one, or you had a long list of names and you wanted to put a space in between each one, you would use text join. So I'm going to click now in cell H2. I'm going to go to the formulas tab, the text group, or click the text icon, and I'm going to scroll down until I see text join, which is a relatively new function in Excel. So first it's going to ask for the delimiter, what I want in between every text string. If I didn't put a delimiter, it would just say Jimmy Buffett with no space and Abraham Lincoln with no space. I want a space in between. So in the delimiter, I'm just going to put a space. You can tell it what to do. If the cell is empty, we have no empty cells, so I'm just going to skip over the ignore empty. And notice when I click in text 1, I get a text 2. So my text 1, I'm going to click on Jimmy, which is cell B2. And then in text 3, in text 2, I'm going to click in text 2, and I'm going to click cell A2, Buffett. Notice my result is Jimmy space Buffett. I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to double click that fill handle. Remember skinny plus above that bottom right hand corner with that little box. Double click the fill handle. And I've gotten the same answer. But again, notice when I go to the formula bar that these are actually words, but in column H, it's text join, open parentheses, double quote, B6, comma, A6. So it's not actually the text. Finally, there's a function called concat, where if you don't have the same character in between each one. So in this case, your boss wants you to combine the city, space, state, but then wants a comma space in between the state and the zip. So in that case, we can use concat. So I'm going to click on cell I2. I'm going to click the formulas tab, text, and concat. By the way, if you're using an earlier version of Excel, that function is called concatenate, but it's exactly the same. It does exactly the same thing. If you don't see text join and you don't see your data types, it just means that you're running an earlier version of Excel. So I'm going to click concat. So in my text 1, I want city, space, state, comma, space, zip. So my text 1 is going to be this first city. So I'm going to do everything on row 2. So I'm going to click on Key West. Now I want a space in between Key West and FL. So notice when I click in text 2, I get text 3. So in text 2, I'm just going to type a space bar to put a space in between text 1 and text 3. Now, in text 3, I'm going to click on the state. So I'm going to click on cell E2. So notice I now have Key West space FL. Now between the state and the zip, I want a comma and a space. So in text 4, notice I have a scroll bar and it goes quite far down to text 254, but we're not going to go that far. In text 4, I'm going to type a comma and then a space. And now in text 5, I'm going to click in the text 5 box and just click on the zip. So notice my result down here in the function argument box says Key West FL, comma, space 33040. So I can click OK. I can double click the fill handle and notice it's filled everything in correctly. But I also could have done that with the flash fill. So if I type Key West FL, comma, space 33040, and I hit enter. I'm going to click the cell, click my data, flash fill, and notice I get the exact same answer, even with my double cities, my double named cities like San Antonio and South Park. It was able to do it. So I hope you enjoyed your introduction into brand new Excel functions.